Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Worlds and Crafts, a stream devoted to opening the curtain of creation on setting building, where we talk about metaplots, minutiae, mechanics, and tonight specifically, monsters, but also people, denizens, inhabitants of the lands of Kaymor, which our good friend here, your big dad, insists is called Possum Planet. So I'm sure there's an entire culture around that. Or there's a group of people who believe that they're on the back of a giant possum. There's a giant gator after all, so why not? And how are you all doing today? Very happy to hear that. Apologies, I'm just snacking because I failed to pay attention to the time. The piggies are well. They were weeking at me earlier when I went in there, probably thinking special for them. But unfortunately, I did not. Received our grommet press. I was Alas, the piggies were disappointed. Not leafy greens. I wanted to go drop this in there. Screenshot of the world as it is currently. All of the updates we've been doing. Some of you who have been paying attention to my Twitter probably would have noticed that I've been doing a little bit of updating. I wanted to make the world seem bigger, and so I went ahead and created or made the cliffs on the left side of the map. They're smaller. I also shrunk the mountains down a little bit, moved some things around just ever so slightly. It might cause us some minor problems, but we will, in fact, be able to fix that on our midday maps. So this, I think, will set us up for a better time with that. For those who are just joining or watching, the program we use for map making is Incarnate, which the information is in the chat. It is a wonderful, very robust program that we will go into greater detail about too. But right now, I wanted to talk about monsters. Talk about monsters, creatures, inhabitants. Earlier today, I had posted a poll on Twitter. Not a poll, sorry. Rewind. I posted a question on Twitter asking people what their favorite monstrous concepts in fiction. And there's some real good responses there. Some really excellent. Like Kendred had said that they like monsters that have an effect on the environment. Layer effects from 5th edition D&D were a particular favorite of theirs. Monsters as mythic beings that have their own interior lives, which I'm always a fan of. I think that you should do your best to make your monsters, to make your creatures have lives of their own. They aren't just fixtures to be smacked. Marchosius then said that his favorite concept is ancient monsters waking for the first time in recorded history, which that is very applicable here. I think it's extremely applicable. We could probably do something with that with null zones. I think that would be really cool. Maybe there's something sleeping in the planet or something that arrives. And our lovely friend Wes, Thirst Trap Mothman Carrying Comfort Studios, said dire blank, to which our esteemed colleague, your big dad, said dire possums. So apparently we're gonna have dire possums. I mean, we're all colleagues here. Kidding me? I'm not gonna unsay it. What do you think I'm gonna do? You think I'm gonna freak out and be like, I take that back. No takesies backsies. And then Al Hazred's Gaming Goo. Okay, interesting. I didn't really read their name fully. It was just Alha in my brain. They said a Lovecraftian horror that is actively benevolent instead of malevolent or apathetic, but trying to be helpful doesn't make them any less maddening or psyche-breaking. And I thought that was a really interesting concept. An alien entity who just wants to help, but can't. At least not in the immediate. And yeah. So that's where my brain is starting tonight. Lovecraftian horrors, dire possums, ancient monsters that are awakening for the first time in known history. And monsters that have their own interior lives and motivation. Creatures. All right. So I'm gonna write these out real quick. Here they're monsters. There are some other things that we're going to be adding as well, because there's some things from our last setting that we started to make and want to do that soft reboot on that we kind of promised we were gonna keep for this setting. Haven't reached the point of readdressing that until now. Other things that make the mind quaver, such as hairy lizards. Monsters and creatures that have their own interior lives, motivations, and goals. Outsiders and alien things that are benevolent but incapable of properly interacting with our reality without harming it. Ancient things that are awakening for the first time in known history. Dire possums. Oh, Broken Golem has arrived in a tide of thesaurus-based horny lizards. Welcome, welcome. And Wes, I see you there. Arian Comfort Studio. Let's see, did I miss anything on this? Da-da-da. No, I think that's it. Perfect. So then, it's a good wave to ride. You get a ticket to ride. I just almost typed Harry as in the name. Mr. Wyckoff, where are you? Are you a lizard? There, can you make commentary? That never happened. You didn't have another tab open that I. Okay. Actually, gonna go ahead and grab the setting building stream document from way back. It's back. It was number 3 and 2. I need them lizards. Yeah, building God. It was a fun one. Definitely wasn't that one. The number 4, let's find out. Yes. Aha, there it is. Okay. The Draken of the Storm's Rush Valley. We had determined that any creature living in the Storm Rush Valley would either need to have the ability to create their own heat, would need to hibernate, or would require no heat at all. We had determined that they required no heat, and that they think they're descended from dragons. Magical, fuzzy lizards. So, grab their notes, drop them in here. Quite lengthy, so we'll have to trim them down. But this is a good point to remind everyone. Always reuse your work. Never, ever, ever think you need to build everything from the ground up. That's horse shit. Anyone who tells you that is trying to sell you something. You should always reuse your work. Always recycle. Be be sustainable. So, our hairy lizards, we'll have to determine where they live at some point, because, well, they're fuzzy. And so maybe they live up in the wellspring. Or maybe they live somewhere else that is preternaturally cold. But I have a question to ask everyone. We have several interesting locations. We have our lovely Gator City. I think you should just remove the software from that and just good developers reuse their work. Great developers steal everything. You know, Wes, you didn't have to go that hard, but you did it for us. Giant mosquitoes. Dire skeeters. Dire skeeters and then dire possums. Down at the creek. Oh, sorry, that's a reference. Something. Some of you probably. So my question was, the spell of mud. What kind of species do we want to include in this? Initially, we had just said let's keep it to humans for now. Keep it simple. And I think that's smart to start out, unless your whole premise is based on having a bunch of different sapient species. I feel like the water can get really muddy really fast when you're like, well, we need all of these different species, blah blah blah, making your life more complicated than it needs to be. Especially when you're trying to bring forward themes. So, yeah, I think we need to ask ourselves if there's any other sapient species that live here. I think that those fuzzy lizards should be one of them. We just got to determine where they live. And so the question I want to ask you all is: are you as tired as I am of human analogs? That is to say, of species that are basically just pointlessly human. I mean, like elves and orcs and goblins, all these things. Granted, goblins in different settings can be different things, and same thing, so can elves. But talking, of course, about classic fantasy, they're neat, but also at the same time, you can cover the varieties of behaviors and traits in humans. You know, without the abject exaggeration. Here's what I'm thinking. We already know we have dragons, but they're abstract concept dragons. They're not anything you can truly comprehend. What I'm thinking is that we go with true speciation. Even more so, different family group. Like we have a mammalian species, humans. We have a more reptilian line species, even if they're not truly reptilian. They're gonna adopt the behaviors and you know, or maybe not the behaviors. They're gonna adopt a lot of the stereotypes to them. You know, different. Oh, that was a good one. Ogloff is a great read. I love that. I love that comic. It's just been a long time since I've looked at it. I think that's an appropriate moment for our content warning. Channel is for horror games and horror related themes, but we also may be talking about other things that are inappropriate for some viewers. So consider all content on the channel rated R and up. I like the idea of having a fungal or a plant race of some sort. I mean, who doesn't want to play Treebeard? Or, you know, who doesn't want to play a terrifying living spore colony? I do. Let me play a spore colony. Yes. Except classic mushroom shape, you know, with the cap. Very itch and tired. Do something more haunting. Like, oh, I don't know, stink horns. Myconids are pretty neat. Um, I don't know how I actually feel about myconids, because the only exposure I have to them in the Forgotten Realms is through the Legend of Drist. So R.I. Salvatore basically headed that up for me, and I don't know. It's okay. It was alright. They were cool. I don't know why I did it. Normal text. So plant or fungal species. Cleanse. So then is there anything else that you guys would want to see? For a sapient species of some sort? I don't really want to get too complicated. I want to add like a million of them, but I think it is interesting when you have, you know, some. Really? Um, Magic the Gathering reliably has absolutely amazing art. I gotta say that real fast. Like, good art, great art, wonderful. Okay, so let's dwell on that. Something we already have. Um, Under realistically, the monsters and creatures that have their own interior lives, motivations, and goals are spirits. We have these spirits, these entities that live in the world, but we haven't really defined them. We haven't really gone into them much, and we don't necessarily have to go deeply into them. So we'll call them natural spirits, or natural, or elemental spirits. that live throughout the world. And the big thing for them was, of course, they require the energy, or they require the magical. Slimefoot the Stowaway. That up real quick. Images. Oh boy. Well, that's spoopy. Nope, I definitely did not want to go anywhere near Amazon. Oh wow. That is really neat, I'm not gonna lie. Um and there is Slimefoot the Stowaway from Magic the Gathering. I just wanted to show everyone because it's really beautiful. Because the art from MTG is art makes me so very enticed. Every time. His little fungal friend. I mean, not gonna lie, the fungal friends to the left and the right there kinda look like hands. Kinda looks like somebody hijacked some hands with some fungus. A little alarming, to be honest. A little, and right here, I mean, just alarming in a good way, because you're imagining like Thing from the Addams Family, but it's the fungus version. The factory of fantastic fungi. Actually, in the background, I'm gonna just. This is Skyrim soundtrack. Play it here, though. Oh, in our world, we know that people have lived in these. In Kaymore, we know that people have lived City on the Cliff. We know that they have lived in Altasaruen. We know that they have lived in these places, but we never really addressed if they've been the ones. And fair enough, dear Big Dad. Take care. Enjoy. Let us know how it goes. Thank you for joining us. And we know that there are spirits that live throughout the land, many of them fleeing from the Wellspring Basin, plains, from the highlands, into the forest surrounded by the Gottside Mountains. We know that they're there. We haven't necessarily addressed if there are other inhabitants. Who were the original peoples here? Were they, I don't necessarily want to dive headfirst into straight up colonization, because that's a zone I don't feel like touching. Unless we're making it a core theme, but I don't think we are. The peoples of this region, in some fashion, have always been here. Through cultural sharing, have, lived here. But then again, the city of Altasaruen has much beneath it. Secrets, terrible things, wondrous things. And we know that there were people there before. But were they the same people? Or was it someone different? Perhaps there was another species altogether that lived where Altasaruen stands. thinking that maybe that's where we can start to insert our lovely lizards. What if they were the original inhabitants of Altasiruan? Had a great civilization at one point, or maybe just a great city, did wondrous things. And their ancestors long ago bungled up some things, and maybe the ones who lived there are gone now because of what terrible thing they wrought. Then I'm gonna just do some quick translating. That's how I do. Um, so because the name Kamor was chosen in that poll, I kind of have inevitably decided that some of the content here will be using the Irish language for the modernized Gelga, but amalgamating it because that's how I work. I don't. I refuse to make direct links to languages, um, just because I think it's disrespectful to living languages, um, unless I am well spoken in it, and I'm not in Gelga. But so what if they're the Isothi? Nope, that's not it. It wouldn't work. Um, that's too close to Asathi, and was not intentional. Um, I would not be surprised at all if the name was developed the same way that I just was doing this. So I looked up the Irish phrasing for regret. And one of them is othliom, but another is brun, efeala. Actually, quite a lot. So for those who aren't aware, um, in the Scarred Lands, the Asathi are also a lizard people who have who were once who once did something that they find regrettable now. Many of them find regrettable. And I looked up the Irish phrasing for "I regret," and it's isoth or isoth. So I just was like, oh, that's silly, and I'm not the only person to do that. Then again, it could just be coincidence, but it feels right. I think Marin. Marin now. So these people that still remain, they are not the same as the ones who came before. They couldn't be. I don't think that's a good choice to make. Um, and that maybe they have tales. Aha, tales. Maybe they have stories, histories that talk about their cousins. So I'm thinking that maybe they live north of the Wellspring Peaks, among the plains up here. Or, well, we haven't decided what's north, but I think it'd be interesting if they lived north of the Wellspring Peak. They lived in the rain shadow up there. It would also make sense for migratory reasons that they might that a branch of them might go down through the valley and the plains below. These would be arid lands, no matter what kind of arid lands they were, and the plains here are somewhat arid. Um, lived north, Wellspring, dry lands. Um, their ancient history says that were they sprang from dragon of. I think it would be interesting if maybe in the wake of a volcanic eruption of some sort a long time ago, because volcanic eruptions are, of course, one of those changing events, right? They change the landscape, they shape things, they also put out all kinds of nitrogen into the soil that plants just love. So eventually, the land becomes very verdant from this action. So if they sprang from the dragon of creation, what if, in the wake of a cataclysmic ancient eruption, the dragon of creation visited a space where life was beginning to grow again, and from that, these people believe they sprang from that. They just popped up, maybe from shed scales. I think that'd be a really interesting creation myth. Um, what do y'all think? Anything to add? Dragon of This goes at the Wellspring changed fire and destroyed everything. In the wake of that destruction, a new life took hold. Great dragon of creation settled down there for a time. The scales that it shed on that land became the mayor. Imagine as a result of that, The Mayrin strongly believe in the concepts of rebirth. So the Mayrin seem unbothered by cold, though they possess some supernatural talent or ability. I still like the idea, though, that the cities or towns are built to this day around the idea that they might need to entertain their progenitors, their progenitor. They possess a great pride in their versatility and capacity to thrive without extraneous tools. Have a great affinity for reflective and shiny objects. Hold great prowess in sports and host games that were once used to entertain their great overlords, but now aren't. See that being a super big thing, right? But I think I'll hold on to it for now. I think it's a really interesting. So we already answered the questions about dragons, so I don't want to super touch on it. But so I like the idea of adding this because it does add that mystical element, right? You need that non-human species there to give people something to latch onto when they don't want to play human, in your world. But also something that isn't going to be very easily used as an analog for racism, getting out your racism. Um, God, that's such a cool telling a bit. Just because I don't want it to be mistaken for things. And something else I realized is that we hadn't come up with a name for the city on the bluffs, so I kind of just made one the other day. The city of Vindral. Kasaya Altasaruin. I think are nice, and you've got I feel like this kind of trifecta because we implied, of course, that the great gator goes into the ocean back around. Give them a rune. Kind of plant or fungal species I think would be interesting. But I'm not really sure if where they would apply or where we could even put them. I think they would go well in maybe the Wellspring Peaks area. Maybe they are a small. Or maybe they live in the forest. Oh, that would actually be really interesting. What if they're stewards of the forest? I mean, mycelium carry nutrients between trees. What if they are found almost exclusively in the forest? Mysterious people. I think I'm gonna go with that. Found in the lighted forest. Mysterious creatures are stewards. Caretake land surrounding it. They take care. I think that would be cool, yeah, Broken Golem. They take care of the land, plants, animals, and they feed on the hay they're in. Cannot kill the way that matters. It's one of my favorite things, that comic that somebody drew about decay being an extant form of life. Sorry, I'm not feeling very talkative tonight. My head is kind of fuzzy, but I'm trying my best. So we've got a species. Plant or fungal species. I think fungal. And then humans. And I like the idea that there's variety among all of them, because variety exists in all life. Perhaps some of the fungal species are wispy and move about the canopy, while others are squat and wide and shuffle through the litter of the forest floor. That's an interesting idea. I like that. I mean, it's possible that they're a colony entity, and that they are not a species. I mean, they are a species, but that they are a gestalt in their consciousness. That the only reason why they're considered sapient, because spores are the wispy things that float around, while they have a modicum of intelligence of their own. It is more like they are organs that exist outside the body and return to report information. They can tell the state of the tree. And I don't think maybe it should just be one thing. But still, interesting. Kind of borrowing a little bit in my own mind from like the Thorian from Mass Effect. Ancient things. Maybe in times of great danger, they have flooded the forest with toxic spores that kill mammalian and kill respiratory life. But just so that they could preserve the trees that feed them. Maybe this is also why the spirits can take refuge there, because they're not technically respiratory. Survive in that kind of thing. The worst case occurs and something happens. I think that is an interesting, and obviously this is stuff that wouldn't just be common knowledge, but coming up with setting things is not the same as being exposed to it via a game or a story, but it is still fun. Hello there, Ghost Owl Studios, and welcome. How are you doing? That's quite all right. Crusader Kings 3 out here is an excellent game. I haven't played it yet myself. Don't know that much about it, other than that the prompts and dialogues are a lot of fun. But of course, it's also made by the same studio who helped to publish Pillars of Eternity, which is my favorite RPG. They have excellent prompts as well. So I can't expect anything less from Paradox. This evening we are currently working on the sapient species, monsters, and creatures that live in our setting. And thus far, we have the Mehrunes, which are lizard folk analogs that live to the north of the Wellspring, up in the plains there. Or maybe they're not plains. Land masses haven't been decided yet. It's still kind of open for suggestion. Their creation myth is that they sprung up from the shed scales of the dragon of creation, settled down there after the land was destroyed by a volcanic eruption many thousands of years ago, and as new life sprang up, dragon of creation laid down there for shed scales came the man. And then we have a fungal species who live forest here, or beneath the Gottsite Mountains. Well, it was thousands of years ago, so quite possibly not. Could be anything. Could be plains. Could be rocky. Yeah, it could be rocky badlands. It could be really anything. But wasteland isn't really a good term for what we're looking for. Usually, wastelands are temporary, right? They're created by a disaster and then filled in by something. Could be badlands though. That would be interesting. Then you'd have these clay-rich soils, eroded by wind, by water, steep slopes, minimal vegetation, canyons, ravines, gullies, mesas, random gas vents. Yeah. Oh, another thing I was thinking actually with regard to that is it would help make sense if this was a volcanic range right here, because it would explain why off of the lee side of the Wellspring Peaks there would be water coming out, because well, old vents that hollow now, for no reason at all. Drainage could drain into them and create a wellspring that fuels the lake west. And that would fuel the river here. Strange of stuff. That said, the concept of wasteland is not a bad idea. I do like the idea of it being off some capacity. Myself in a sea of tabs. There we go. I have discovered where I am. Okay, so we have 3 sapient species that are predominant here. Humans being the familiar, the maroon, less familiar, fungal species, completely alien. Hard to grasp them, though maybe they have envoys that, individuals that stride the world to return with resources, whatever they need. So maybe they're an actively trading species. What do you guys think? We know that we have decided that they're stewards of the woods, take care of the land, the plants, the animals, on the decay they're in. That's their lifestyle. But do they interact with other species at all? Yeah, wasteland is a purely civilization-based term. It is more a term used by capitalists than anything else. It literally just it's super broad and useless. As a term. I mean, your suggestion wasn't useless. Sorry, Ghost Owl, not saying that. It's the term itself, but like badlands, scrublands, dry arid steppes, there's all kinds of lands that could be considered. You're good. Honestly, really, you are. But there's all kinds of lands that could be considered wasteland under that concept. But yeah. So if you had to choose a region of the United States or Canada, hell, anywhere in the world that you think of when you say that, what would it be? Yeah, every word, every talk is always a chance to learn something. That's how I try and view it. Ooh, salt flat. Salt flats caused by, is that an evaporated lake? Salt pan. Natural salt pans or salt flats are. Yeah, I mean you can still say wasteland. It's not entirely. It's not 100% capitalist, but it's civil. It's civilization based. Saying like, this is useless to civilization. It is. Which if you're civilization centric, then you're not exactly environmental. But yeah, fair enough. So a salt pan is what the salt flats are, and apparently, it's just found in deserts. Yeah, okay. So they form by evaporation of water, such as a lake or pond. Me too. Hooray! I'm glad this stream is attracting those kind of people. Yay! Yeah, ancient lakes are seabeds. That is an interesting concept, actually. Something I hadn't considered and would be a really addition here. You know, what if to the very north, the northernmost section. Here, I'm gonna re-download the re-export the map, so that you have the full image because I cropped it on that one. Delete that real quick. Drop this in. As you can see, there's a lot of space to the north of the Wellspring Peaks, and that was unintentional, but it does give us room to expand and explore. And it would be interesting if maybe just up along the top here are some massive salt flats. Like, what if it's just shining white salt flat? And maybe there's some more mountainous land masses block it off, but maybe in the middle, where there was once a great inner sea of some sort, there's a salt flat now. I have to add more mountains for that to make sense, but we can do that pretty easily. Add another layer of them. The largest extent of salt water was during the Huh. Wonder why that is. I know that that terrestrial iron is purely and 100% the result of microbiological life, microorganisms. But as far as salt, I don't actually know entirely how it forms, other than maybe volcanic activity. That's true. I didn't think about that. Yeah, so, okay. I'm liking where this is going. So, the sea we have determined the water around here is. There's some very warm ocean currents that make the bays and inlet coast quite warm, and that's what heats up this area. You know, and but these mountains tend to catch the water. So, what if we added some more mountains in here at some point to complete our rain shadow concept? And there's just salt, and there's some salt flats over there. And otherwise, then there's maybe plains that turn into desert. I like that concept. We'll have to hold on to that. Um, let's add a new location. Um, on the other side of the wellspring, there. Large arid land, dry, where a great lake. What do you mean left-hand path? Don't completely understand what you mean by that. And I do like the idea of the land getting more arid as you go north. It explains significantly why people would congregate around. Looks like we're going to expand the mountains a bit up there. I mean, realistically, in reality, the largest mountains that tend to cause, more arid lands, they're not just tall, they tend to have many mountains stacked upon each other. They're not merely just long, but deep. It would be fun because we could add, I think it'd be a lot of fun at least, because then we could add like layers of passes through the mountains. Ah, yes. No, you weren't way off, Broken Gold. Yeah, it's just discouraged. Um, Weird. For some reason, every time I click, it's zooming out. That's okay. Deal with that later. Nonetheless, it's something to consider. So tomorrow, at noon Eastern Daylight Time, um, we're gonna be actually building the map, so we can work on that a bit. And it is about time right now to take a break. I'm gonna grab some water and probably some tea. So the break's gonna be slightly longer than normal, probably about 5 minutes. Um, so let's take a breather. Don't go anywhere. At least not for too long. Come on back. We got some more creating to do. When we get back, I would really like to start talking more about monsters, more about these monsters that have their own motivations and goals and inner lives, outsiders, alien things, benevolent but incapable of properly interacting with reality, ancient things awakening for the first time in known history. Sorry, possums. Um, and before we go, be sure to check out. Oh yeah, we are. I don't know what that is actually. Monster Hearts. Check it out. Um, but we will be back shortly. So yeah. As always, Black Lives Matter, folks. We are back. Sorry about the delay there, folks. Like I said, I was getting flat. There we go. I see that I know I was I was looking at that. I was just like, I'll just read the prompt, I guess. Monster Hearts 2, I guess. And I don't know what happened, but I see Ian has fixed that. So yes, if you're interested in horror D&D, we are partnering the Red Opera currently. Starter. Click the link, check it out. But the command was I'm confused. The command last week. I am not a I don't know how to manage a channel, so never mind. Ignore me. I don't understand, and I'll leave it at that. So, oh god, oh, no automation for that. Yikes. Hey, Twitch, add automation. Twitch, add automation, please. Sing you a song. Add automation, please. Say the words that are actually in my head. All right. So we were talking about the lizard folk, some fungal species, some humans. We're adding some salt flats, which is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that. Really excited because map making is like my favorite part of the stream sometimes. Though I mean, I love making stuff with you guys. It's A+ and it's hilarious most of the time, unless I have a headache. But map making is just very soothing, methodical. But now, monster. Here there be monsters. You best start believing in ghost stories. You're in one. Monsters. So, we have our lovely that are oh yes, dire possums. We have spirits. They're everywhere. But I'm sorry, you said dire possums, so let's talk about dire possums. It's a pity that our creator of dire possums had to leave to go host and run a mage game. But apparently dire possums are going to be a thing, because earlier I asked on Twitter what is everyone's favorite form of monster. Well, I think that they're rodents of unusual size and that I don't believe in them. Sometimes I wish I could just have Carrie Elwes like on command. Like, come here, say the thing, please. Thank you. You're amazing. Kiss on the cheek. Have some tea. Possums and opossums are the same thing. One is just a colloquialism. Or at least, unless you know something I don't. Broken Golem. I know that. You're right. I was just being silly. Because if you've ever seen The Princess Bride, the rodents of unusual size look conspicuously like opossums. Grab the link to the post I had made earlier, so you can clearly see. Copy link to tweet, paste. There you go. Ghost Owl Studio. This was my my tweet earlier. You just need to see the dire possum gif. Perfect. But yes, opossums. Now, dire implies something weird. Is actually I actually don't know where the term dire came. So let's look that up. Dire wolf etymology, because dire wolf was an actual type of wolf. So why was it called that? Sign. Extremely serious or urgent. Presaging disaster. Disaster possum. Fearful, threatening. Okay, it's Latin. Dirus. Dirus. Mid-16th century English, dire. Or dire. Okay, so that makes sense. A fearful wolf. So, now my question is... Disaster badger! Oh, you ruined my question. My question was going to be, what makes the possum so scary? We have to ask ourselves that. What makes these possums so scary? Why are they threatening? No. Badgers are... I mean, okay, maybe you're right. But shh. Um, but if it's specifically a disaster badger, that implies an exponent higher, doesn't it? It implies something more. It implies that it's an even greater disaster. Or is that just a honey badger? It explodes. I feel like that doesn't have any any service in nature. The dire badger is known far and wide for the fact that it hisses. It is strong. It is tenacious. It is stubborn, and it will kick the crap out of you. However, the thing that sets it apart from the regular badger and the esteemed honey badger is that it fucking explodes. The honey badger is we need Mark and Nick ASAP to make a house a house seal for you. And it's just a honey badger. All right, I think we're not getting any input on dire opossums, and I don't necessarily have anything to come up with why they're dire. So let's just ask the question: why are they dire? Threatening, dangerous. Heraldic badgers. I actually don't know how big dire wolves. Real wolves are fucking huge. Oh no, poor babies. They can't hang from trees anymore. That's so sad to me. Let's see. Um Direwolf was about the same size as the largest gray wolves, the Yukon wolf and the northwestern wolf. 132 pounds. 150 pounds roughly. Its teeth were larger and had a greater shearing ability, though, and its bite force was the strongest of any known Canis species. So it could probably just shear through your leg. I mean, gray wolves are that big. Timber wolves are pretty large. Yeah, gray wolves are huge. People don't realize how big wolves are. I've noticed they're like they're dogs, and it's like yes, they are. Have you ever seen an Irish wolfhound? An Irish wolfhound is the nearest thing to an actual wolf. It makes sense though that they. Yeah, shaggy husky. I mean, you think of the largest dogs we know of, and you know that we've bred. He could, couldn't she? Oh my god. No, that's fair. Derail all you want, to be honest. I mean, we're still talking about relevant information. We're talking about creatures. We're talking about life forms and the kind of stuff that you can create things out of. Because I mean, ultimately, what we're talking about is evolution, right? We're talking about how the direwolf was called the direwolf not because it was larger, but because it had terrifying teeth and the ability to shear through or to shear into like the flesh of mega herbivores like Megaloceros. That's relevant to us, I think. So the thing that's carried me about opossums is opossums are, I believe, omnivores. And we love them, right? Like, I mean, I love opossums. I think they're adorable. They're kind of ugly, but they're really adorable. Um, oh, I didn't know that. Opossum is borrowed from the Powhatan language. Um, diet. Yes, they eat. Oh, they eat dead animals, insects, rodents, and yeah. So they're omnivores. God, they're so cute. I think what the cutest thing is that they have little fingerless black gloves. Cutest thing about them, their little hands. They're little bikers, fuzzy bikers. Yeah, yeah. Opossums. Um, yeah, they're omnivores. They eat a lot of different things. That's why they tend to get lumped in with like raccoons and skunks, even though skunks are part of. Wow, shoot! What is the mustelids? A skunk is a mustelid, and I don't know what the heck a raccoon is actually. Raccoons are just mischief in a ball of loose skin. Raccoons are also do things like break into your cabin at night to touch your face for absolutely no reason. Like, I'm just going to touch you. I need to touch and understand some. Are you, person? Tiny little hands. Yeah, yeah, there's something relevant there also is that you know, if you live in an area where there's a lot of raccoons, a lot of skunks, you have cats, do not under any circumstance let them out after dark. Oh, I didn't realize that. So right you are, Ghost Owl. But badgers are musty. Weird. Raccoons are their own genius. How am I not surprised about that? That's true, actually. You know, think about it. Skunks are carnivores. Nom 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 nom. Okay, so opossums being marsupials. I mean, realistically, we don't have to make them actual opossums. We could just make them look. But I think we should move on. Um, so monsters and creatures that have their own interior lives, motivations, and goals. Um, ultimately, they're sapient or sophont in their own. So they're intelligent in some way, shape, or form. So in that way, they're more like some of the more intelligent birds and mammals, um, or even more like I said, sophont, human-like. Um, in that case, we're getting more into the Witcher territory, where a lot of monsters that are hunted are quite intelligent. Raccoons are chaotic touch. In reference to the word fingering in its old term to describe when you are prodding at something, raccoons are masters of that. Raccoons are master fingerers. Otters are jugglers. Oh god. Warming, ground running birds. Oh man, you just sparked a primal like genetic terror in me. The fucking terror birds, man. That said, I absolutely love the concept of having something like that. I think specifically the plains should have some kind of bird like that, kind of stalking bird. Um, in Pathfinder, my favorite animal was the axebeak. If that says anything for you, they scare the shit out of me. Like the concept of a 8 foot tall bird bearing down on you, able to kick the fucking life right out of you, just in an instant, and with a will and desire to do so. You're just like, oh god. Liss, long, lid, verbs. Ooh, like secretary birds. They're really neat, actually. I just think they're funny because it looks like somebody took a falcon and put it on stilts. See? Secretary bird. Very pretty, though. What if they were sophont but were herded by a race of sentient corvids? Not so fun. Huh. Other thought. What if they were not herded, but ridden by a race of sapient or sentient corvids? Okay. I'm liking this a lot. Um, Demon crows. Oh boy. So now my biggest question is, how large is this corvid race? Sorry, I should say species, not race. Crows are lovely. Crows are babby. Um, Broken Golem, I hate to break this to you, but hats can be made in any size. Fine, they wear hats. Apparently, we're adding another sapient species. Four of the people. So here's my addition to that. Based on a mixture of blue jays, magpies, and ravens. So that way they have, the option of having some fucking color. I don't think so. If I search for cardinal, I don't give a crap about the team. I don't give a crap about the religious thing. I want the bird, even though the bird is named after the religious thing. Bird. I think Cardinalis cardinalis. Cardinale. They're passerine birds. That's right. Yeah. That's what I thought. Is that they share a family with grosbeaks. Grosbeak. I mean, there's a bird. There's a couple birds that look and sound like they should be corvidae, but they're not. Mockingbirds, they're not. Catbirds, I'm pretty sure aren't. Gray catbird. No, yeah, they're not. They're from a family, the family of mimics, Mimidae. But yeah, so yeah, the family Corvidae is actually quite small when it comes to like grand variety. Um, but actually, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's a family, but there's a lot of varieties of ravens and crows. Only like a couple varieties of blue jays, to my knowledge, or there might only be one. I'm not sure. Um, Growing up, my mother was a bird watcher, and I learned all kinds of things about birds for no reason other than they're pretty and they're fun. They're also incredibly cute to watch. Our house was recently blessed by a loggerhead shrike, also known as a butcher bird. Thought today. So, Corvid people. Um, so I think that instead of being completely wingless, that they have hands that extend from their wing joints where the wing would fold back. Because clearly tool manipulation became important to them. And now they're flightless, but they can still use their wing. Even if for no major purpose. I think that they should live under the mountains by to the east of the plain. As long as they can hold torches and pitch. Yeah, it actually would be interesting if there was again that species of like giant secretary birds that kind of became mutualistic with them, kind of like dogs to humans. That's fair, yeah. It's not a bad idea at all. Honestly, if you think about it, it's really tragic what humanity kind of did to dogs, um, in much of the world, where we kind of like, they evolved alongside us because it was beneficial for both of us, and then we kind of like cast them out and stopped treating them as equal because our civilization had no room for them anymore. The moment that we stopped being hunter-gatherers, it kind of became an interesting thing. No, I don't think that's mean at all. I mean, many species, the dogs evolved kind of selectively in response to us rather than through our direct guidance at first. Because, I mean, the stress hormone in their blood that was lower and made them less afraid of humans made it so that they were able to be more tamed, but they kind of did it themselves. They evolved that way naturally. And then we started selecting. So, I don't know if it's entirely cruel from that point, because it was either way they died or they helped us. Here's a question for everyone. What has awoken beneath Altasaruin? Maybe something has, maybe something hasn't. I have a doggo behind me. We are running short on time though, so I think I think it's about time to close this up. My brain still isn't functioning super well, but this has been fun. I think we got I think enough done to be of use to tomorrow's stream, where we can start building out some more mountains and maybe some salt flats. And yeah, that's a better idea of who inhabits our land. Some concepts for monsters and creatures who live there. So be sure to pop in tomorrow, 12 noon, during daylight time, for midday maps with Worlds and Crafts, where we'll just spend a couple hours just building out some of the world here physically in front of you. And once again, thank you for joining us. This has been Worlds and Crafts, a stream devoted to opening the curtain of creation on setting building. Talk about metaplots, minutiae, maps, in this case, monsters, and, well, peoples as well. Once again, if you haven't already, check out Red Opera. I don't know why it's still doing that thing, but Broken Golem, do you think you could grab that link? The Red Opera, we're partnering up for D&D with the Red Opera. Check out that Kickstarter once it's in the chat there. Otherwise, if you don't follow Gehenna Gaming on social media, do so. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And if you haven't already, join us on our Discord. We are a friendly bunch, and we always like having new people around. Because, well, the theme of this stream here, the motto I think applies: creating is better with friends. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. All the creating and fun. And do also give me a follow on Twitter if you feel like you're interested in an admixture of tabletop, RPG related things, world building things, and occasionally political stuff and just what. Either way, I hope you all have a lovely night and take care of yourselves. Ciao.